If you're taking credit classes at GCC this semester, you're probably enrolled in BookSmart. That's Barnes & Noble's all-inclusive textbook program. And this gives you a new choice. Do you want to handle your textbook yourself, or do you let the program take care of it for you? So if college feels familiar to you, like you know how to recognize an e-textbook and you understand access codes, and you've done this before. Okay, so maybe you opt out of BookSmart and do it yourself. But if college feels a bit foreign, if you've never used a digital textbook before, or maybe you've been away from college for a while and you never heard of an access code, it might feel a little confusing. And then BookSmart might be exactly what you need. So I kind of think of it this way. Buying your own textbooks when you know the system, it's like driving to the next county. It's easy, it's safe, it's comfortable. But going it alone when you don't know the system, it's kind of like going to the Gobi Desert without having a guide. You might stumble over the currency or dirt roads across a steppe, get lost. Maybe you accidentally insult some nomadic herders because you don't know their customs. But BookSmart, well, that's what it does. It's an all-inclusive tour with a guide. Everything's bundled and it's ready before classes start so that you can focus on learning instead of hunting down materials. Tonight we're talking with Judie Littlejohn, our Director of Online Learning, about how BookSmart actually works and where to go when you need help. So I'm joined today by Judie Littlejohn. She's our Director of Online Learning here at Genesee Community College, and she's also a history teacher with many years in education. You may see her name on a history course if you take one online. She's done some pioneering work with e-textbooks and with AI in the classroom. And on the technical side, she's one of the people who are responsible for making sure that BookSmart connects properly to your Brightspace courses. So she knows the system inside and out. Welcome, Judie. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Loy. It's good to be here. I've been connected with GCC in various ways since the early 90s. I was a student here myself, and then after a few years break, I came back here and worked for a while in the testing center and then switched into online learning. So I've actually been in this department since 2000.
That's a while.
Yeah, that's a while. So, and I love it. I love online learning. I love how inclusive it can be, how all students can have the opportunity to learn no matter where they are or what's going on in their lives. And I think BookSmart, it kind of parallels that when students can get into their course for the first time and find all the materials they need right there. Instead of having to order books in advance and wait for them to be delivered, which is a perfectly fine system, but sometimes we can't get things ordered as early as we'd like to, or we may have to wait for a delivery. But this way, students have access to everything and can be more successful right from the first week of classes.
Okay. Well, let's start with some of your basic questions that students have. So I'll play the role of the student today.
Okay.
And we'll talk about what BookSmart is and how it works. And so for students who've never heard of it before, can you give us just the quick version about what it is and what problem it solves?
BookSmart is a Barnes & Noble initiative that they're our bookstore here on campus. I think they call it all access or full access or something like that. Barnes & Noble has a different name. So every campus who has their own Barnes & Noble kind of brands this initiative however they want it to look on their campus, and we call it BookSmart. What basically happens is students pay a flat rate for access to all their materials, and it's a per credit hour rate. So if you're taking 4 classes at 3 credits each, you'd have 12 credit hours. And I think it's $22 a credit or something.
Yeah,
Along
23.
those 23. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't get into the student accounts side of things, the financial side, so I don't really have those figures off the top of my head. But so sometimes you have to look at your courses because you're going to opt in or opt out. So you're going to either get all of your books this way for a semester or none of them, meaning you're going to find them on your own a different way. So, for example, I teach History 203. And if it's $23 a credit, which I think it is now that you said that, a 3-credit course that's going to be $69, right? If you go to the website yourself, it's Norton Publishing, the book is $70. So you have to stop and think, is it worth it for me to do BookSmart or should I buy the book on my own? Now, my history example is fine. If, clearly you can go whichever way you're more comfortable with. But in some courses, the books are crazy expensive. $300 books, $250 books. And clearly the $69 is going to save you money. So it's important for each student to look at all of their courses that they're registered for and look at all the materials that they need and make sure that you're making the choice that's going to save you the most money.
Right. Especially if you might have a course that doesn't have any books.
Right.
And then you have to balance that against how much you're saving on, your really expensive course.
Right. Or if you might have an English course with open educational resources, which we tend to call OERs, and students aren't always aware of what that means. But if you see OER on a course, that means there's no cost to those books, and no matter what you choose to do. So if you had all OERs, which I don't think we have enough really to make a lot of full schedules of all OERs. But depending on your major, you could find a few, and it would save you money to opt out of BookSmart and not pay anything. Okay. So we'll see.
Fair.
Yeah.
So, kind of follow-up question. We talked about what's included with BookSmart. Textbooks. What kind of things are not included?
The things that are not included are what we call consumables, like the lab kits. I know that's in the next question, but
it's okay.
But if you were taking an art class, say, and you say you're taking painting, and you have to buy paints and paintbrushes and who knows what else, probably masking materials and things, a sketch pad and canvases, and all of those things you will use up as the consumer, and there's nothing to return back. So you have to. Those are not included in BookSmart. You'd probably not particularly want those things from Barnes and Noble. You'd probably want to be at an art supply store or something, someplace online, and find the best price that you can for things like that. I think sometimes there are aprons, if you're doing the pottery and things like that. So that's a garment you're going to wear and keep. That would be considered a consumable that's not covered. If you're taking a lab, say a chemistry course, and the lab kits have pre-measured tiny amounts of the caustic chemicals, and you can't really send those back. You can and you can't. No, so that's a funny thing that I just brought up. The lab kits, as far as I know, are not covered by BookSmart. You do pay for those independently. So you pay for the cost of a lab kit up front, and then there are parts of the lab kit that you discard, like any chemicals, any liquids, things like that. But your beakers and I don't know, what else is there than a beaker? Test tubes. Yeah, Bunsen burners. Those you can actually send back in the lab kit box and get some sort of money back from the company that sold it to you. Clearly, you're not going to get all of your money back. I don't know what the percentage is. I would guess less than half. But so you can get a little bit of a refund once you return those beakers and whatnots that can be used again.
I did not even know that. It was interesting because when I was in college, I took a chemistry course, and I had bought a lab kit, and it came with an Erlenmeyer flask, and I used it for coffee for the next 10 years. because it would sit flat in my car. This was in the days before the non-tip
Oh,
coffee
yes,
cups.
it was
It
probably
would sit
bottom
because
heavy.
it had the wide bottom. It
Yeah.
would sit in my car, and I used to drink coffee out of an Erlenmeyer flask.
That's funny. Chemistry at all times.
Yes, I am a nerd.
Coffee, coffee is its own chemistry right there, isn't it?
Absolutely, caffeine is essential. All right, so let's skip over to and let's talk about opting out.
Okay.
So what if a student decides to opt out? Like, how do they do that? You already mentioned, like, I think you're all in or all out,
For the semester.
right? And then so if they do decide they're going to opt out, now what?
If you choose to opt out, there are steps that you take. And I wish to heaven that I could spell those out for you clearly. But I do know that part of it happens on the Barnes & Noble website. I know that there's reference there to opting out. I do not have the student access to these things, but you, the student, will see when you log into Barnes & Noble with your GCC email account, there's a reference to BookSmart and to opting in or opting out. And if you can't opt out right there, I believe you can, but I'm not 100% sure, then you can opt out somewhere in My GCC in your cards.
The dashboard.
The dashboard, yeah, there you go, with student accounts. This financial end of it all is managed by student accounts. So they're the ones that will let you know. And I know that it's hard to see where BookSmart is on your bill. And my understanding is that the business office is working on that. So it'll be clearly stated, the line items will be clearer on your bill, and you'll know exactly what your overall BookSmart fee would be if you choose to remain opted in. I believe at this time you're automatically opted in unless you opt out. And there's a change coming up within the next couple of years, or a change is planned. I'll put it that way, because it's up to the federal administration, and I never know what they're going to do. But we're supposed to we're supposed to change that so that students will opt in instead of being opted in automatically. So really look at your bill. Obviously, you're going to look at your book list in the Barnes & Noble online from the GCC website and see how everything's listed, and then double check it against your student bill and student accounts on your dashboard, and make sure that everything lines up the way you expect it to, so you're seeing the same amounts of money.
I did have a question, and this is not on our script here, so I'm going off topic again, which I do occasionally.
That's
apologize.
okay.
But I did have a question about students who are trying to figure out how much their materials would cost if they were not using BookSmart and they were not able to find that information. And what I figured out just this afternoon, is that the reason is because when they go over to the Barnes & Noble bookstore, they're logged in with their GCC account. And so it's showing the BookSmart fee. But if you log out of the Barnes & Noble BookSmart, or Barnes & Noble site with your GCC account, you no longer see the BookSmart, and now you'll see the cost of the items without, what they would
Sure.
cost without the BookSmart. So
The real cost. Well,
Right.
you know what I would do, is I tend to use Chrome for a lot of stuff. So I would probably log in Chrome to Barnes & Noble and see my BookSmart amount, and then pop open Firefox and go into Firefox without logging in, so I can see them side by side. Like for me, I like to see the side by side comparisons.
right,
But that's good.
then get a little Excel action going.
Yeah. Because some of the courses have a lot of materials.
Yeah.
When I only teach 2 or 3 at a time, and I just have one book for each course, so I see like 3 on a list. I can handle that. But if I were taking 6 courses and had multiple materials, yeah, you do need Excel to look to compare some of these things.
Yeah, it gets a little crazy. It's interesting, though. I think for full-time students, the vast majority of full-time students, it's going to be less expensive for them to use BookSmart.
I think so too.
Yeah, but for part-time students is where you have to do some math.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, at least they have less classes to math.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I agree with that.
All right. So let's talk about the part that you really deal with here. Finding your textbook in Brightspace. We get this question all the time. Where is my textbook in Brightspace? So if the student's enrolled in BookSmart, classes have started, books are in Brightspace, and there's something. I know there's a thing in the courses called the BookSmart module, and it might or might not be there. So can you explain a little bit about what that is and why students might see it in some of their courses but not other courses?
I can do that. So we put a Brightspace module. No. Well, it is Brightspace. We put a BookSmart module in every Brightspace course for spring 26. So if you don't see it, it's because somebody hid or removed it. Right now, every single course has it. And as a faculty member, so if you're using the OERs, for example, or you don't have a book for whatever reason, you don't need the module, and that's why you won't see it. But sometimes people won't see the module but are still using BookSmart, and that's where students get confused. And that happens in my own classes. And the reason for that is you don't need to go to BookSmart to that module to access my materials, because I've embedded the links directly to the publisher content within the content modules. So if you go into the Chapter 5 module, your links are right there, and you don't have to go to an extra module to get there. But what happens is, like as I said, I use Norton Publishing, WW Norton. I like them because they're employee owned, by the way, and I feel like they're affordable, right? This is a $70 book instead of the $300 book. But they give me links for every activity that we're going to do in the class that I use in the course, and for every chapter that we read, and I can just embed those. Mm-hmm. Other publishers, like Pearson, for example, you might have to go through the module, the BookSmart module, to get to that publisher's textbook to read it. And sometimes there's an extra step with this UZU thing, this YUZU, where students also have to go and make an account there to read the chapters. And it gets extremely confusing, and it's all up to the way the publishers create and distribute their content. So please be a little bit patient with your faculty, because they're trying to figure it out with you. And there's no one cut and dry way, which I wish there was. So it would be so much easier for everybody involved if everybody had a similar path to their publisher content. But they're wild cards, right? It's like, going shopping and going into different stores, and like you go to Aldi's, you need a quarter for a cart. Like, what's that about? And you go to other stores and you might have a carry basket, or like things are different. And you figure it out. You shop once or twice and you've got it down. And it's the same with this. You get through a week or two and you'll have it down. You guys will be fine. Once you start clicking around, poking around in the class, read what the instructor says in the syllabus, and in your how to start here module, begin here, I think it says now. And whatever directions your faculty member wrote. So like in my classes, in my BookSmart module, I actually edit that to say, you don't need to click on this module again, just click in the modules for the course for each chapter, and everything will be right there.
Right. Well, that's nice too because listening to you talk about that, it sounds like the chapter 5 link goes straight to chapter 5.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. With Pearson, I know at least most of the way that it works, you click through you click through the module to get out to Pearson, and then once you get out to the Pearson publisher site, then you have to go find module 5 again.
Right. Or find your class name. That one is crazy. Right. And then go find your chapter.
Right.
Or module.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. And yeah, definitely the faculty don't have as much control over that, I think, as they probably would like.
I think there's all different levels of control, and some of it's the faculty, the comfort level with the technology. Literally, I probably put 60 links in a course for myself, and not everybody's comfortable with that. So they might feel like you're safer in the long run, you as the student, if you have the one link that goes to the course on the publisher's site and everything is there, and you're not depending on the faculty to get the correct links in the right spot in the Brightspace course. Mm-hmm. One thing, though, I'll mention that my students struggle with is, for some reason, and I guess it makes sense from a student standpoint, because I think I would probably do this if I were a student, but from being on the other side, I'm like, why are you doing that? They go into the course and immediately say, well, where's the book? Where's the book? I'm supposed to have BookSmart. Where is it? Mm-hmm. And I'm always like, what are you looking for the book for? You know, like, you've got to read the syllabus first. You have to do these other activities. You have to introduce yourself. You know, you have to get used to the lay of the land here before you dive into a content chapter. Mm-hmm. And so I have to clarify that a little bit better in my courses and be a little bit more patient and say, you don't need the book till you get to module 1 or chapter 1 or whatever, because I start with module A, which is called Getting Started, and where they get acclimated to the course mm-hmm. before having to worry about the history that they're reading about. So that's just one more approach. And so, like, don't panic if you don't see it right away. It might pop up right when you need it.
As you're talking about that, I'm thinking to myself about in-person classes. And in an in-person class, or, you know, even K-12, like, you get your textbook the first day or even before class starts. Like, you're mm-hmm. down at the bookstore grabbing that big heavy stack of books, and classes haven't even started yet. And so I think maybe for some students, they expect the online to be the same way. Oh, I got to find my book first, and then I'll worry about what's in the class.
Right. I think you're right. And then, but for everyone who buys all their books first, there's a student, you know, a corresponding student who waits until the instructor says, yes, we will really read this book, so you need to go buy it.
Right, right.
I'll tell you what, in history, you really read the books. So.
Well, yes. We would hope, anyway. So we're kind of jumping down a little bit, but that pairs nicely into the question. So when do students get access to their textbooks? So we have a preview period before classes start. Can you talk a little bit about that and when they should be able to have access and be able to look at the textbook?
Mm-hmm. So the preview period is 4 days before the first day of classes. And that is, so I can tell you the reason for that is, so if you were, say you were a student at Brockport, so you're at SUNY Brockport, and you found out you never took statistics, right? So you're going to take it over the summer. And so you decide you're going to take it at GCC. You only need this one class and this one, your one course. And what happens here and all the colleges is on that first day of classes, even if you decide you don't like your courses, you don't want to take them, you owe 25% of them. So when day 1 hits, well, it was 25% in the full semester. In the shorter mm-hmm. semesters like summer and winter, it's a lot more than that. So you hit day 1 and you already owe money, even though you never clicked on anything and never did anything. So that is why the course is open a few days early. And so you as a student should be aware of that and get in there. So for January, they open on the 16th, and the classes start on the 20th. So you've got 16th, 17th. Is that right? 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah. And so you've got your 4 days to look in the course, poke around, look at the syllabus, get a feel for the expectations, look at the learning outcomes, make sure it's what you're expecting to learn, and then you can stay in the course. But so we have this little window or cushion of time. And so if you get into that statistics course and you think, oh my gosh, this looks horrible, I never want to do this, or, oh, wait a minute, I already did this, I think I already have this credit, maybe I need to bring in another transcript, then you can drop the course before the 20th and get a 100% refund if you already paid, or owe zero if you haven't paid yet. So it really can make a big difference, just having that, what we call the preview period. And the book should be there. If you opted into BookSmart, you should have access, unless it's set up like my course where you have to get to chapter 1 first. So it's a mixed bag, right? But if it is one of those courses where you go through BookSmart to see the whole book and all the materials, you'll be able to see them during the preview period.
Okay, so they should be in there right away. Okay.
Yes, occasionally if the instructor has to do something special to connect the course in Brightspace to the course and the publisher's website, sometimes they may not have taken that step yet. And so if you feel that if all signs indicate that you should be able to see the book and you can't, then feel free to reach out to your instructor and say, I was looking for these materials. Can you let me know if it's ready yet, or am I just looking too soon? And I'm sure your instructor will get back to you.
Yeah, you're already jumping into our last segment here of getting help. Like,
oh yeah,
when things aren't working and you click on a textbook link and nothing happens, or they get an error message, the first person they should check with is their instructor.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Always. So your instructor is the king or queen or deity in charge of that course. They're the only person that knows that course inside out. And they're going to know if they connected the course or not, if they have everything set up correctly, or if they're still working on it. Most faculty will try to put a note up that says, hey, welcome, glad you're here. I'm still finishing up, so some things don't work yet. And I think those notes are pretty helpful, because it's easy to be a little bit more patient when somebody lets you know what's going on. Then that's far more comfortable than feeling confused because you're poking around and not finding things that you expect to see. So don't hesitate to reach out to your instructor. And if they are, for some reason, not reachable, you're always welcome to contact the bookstore with BookSmart issues. And you can reach out to the student accounts office if you believe it's a billing issue instead of a Brightspace issue.
Okay. So reach out to because our bookstore is really a Barnes & Noble. It's not a GCC entity. It happens to live here on campus, but it's not ours.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So if you're worried about whether or not you're enrolled in the program or not enrolled in the program, or questions about opting out, that has to go to the bookstore. And people on campus really cannot answer a whole lot of questions about that.
Right. Especially if there's someone like me who doesn't have access to any of the student accounts information.
Right.
So I couldn't tell you. I could look in a course and see if the learning tools are in place. I won't get any more technical than that, but I can do that for you. So on the Brightspace side, I can tell you, yes, this is set up, or no, it's not quite ready yet. But on the student side, and if you've opted in, opted out, paid, not paid, I can't tell you any of that. So.
All right. So that's BookSmart or student accounts. And so here's a critical juncture. When does it become a technical issue where, somebody from online learning needs to step in and verify, check it out, answer a question?
If you've reached the start date of the course, if you get into, these courses start January 20th, if it's the 21st or the 22nd and things aren't working right, then by all means reach out, because you don't want to start off behind, especially in that first week of classes. That's when you get your jump start going, so you want to be right up in the forefront and making sure that you have access to everything that you need.
Right, and that's GCC online at genesee.edu, right?
Yes, yep.
Yes. And so if you're listening and you've heard me say GCC online at genesee.edu before, you may assume that email only goes to the learning specialists here in our office, and it doesn't. It actually goes to the learning specialist, it goes to the instructional designer, and it actually goes to Judie as well.
Yep,
so,
I see them all.
Yes. So if it's a high-level question, it will get a high-level answer. The correct person will jump on that and get back to you as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's why we use that email instead of giving an individual person's email address, because with people coming and going, vacations, meetings, whatnot, when you want a fast response, use GCC Online, because there's a set of eyes on that all the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we have one final question. Mm-hmm. Do you have any final advice for students who are using BookSmart for the very first time?
I would say just read. Read. Like, it is so important in college to read, whether you use BookSmart or not. Read those materials. However you need to do it, right? If you don't like staring at pages, they put you to sleep. Have Brightspace play that book out loud to you, or get your browser to play it out loud. Listen to it. Often there are videos that accompany the books. Watch those videos, listen to those, look at the pictures, get a sense of what's going on, because this material often, if you're in your third, fourth, or fifth semester of a program, a lot of it is going to feel comfortable to you and familiar. But if you're just starting out, it can be overwhelming. If you're taking 4 and 5 and 6 classes and everything's new to you, it's extremely overwhelming. So you need to take your time and read all the words. I know I say that, and I say it all the time. I always say, read with both eyes. Read all the words. But it's just so important. The more comfortable you are with your learning materials, the better off you're going to be in the long run.
Right. And I think, to be honest with you, I think a lot of instructors sort of look at the syllabus not just as a contract, but as an introduction and a help document and a guide.
Absolutely.
So, start, if you were walking in the classroom, you'd sit down and you'd face front and you'd start looking at the board. And if you're in an online class, it's almost like, okay, sit down and go find the syllabus.
Right. Always start with the syllabus. That's your roadmap for your course. Mm-hmm. And then that will just guide you through. And your syllabus ought to tell you how to get at your book if it's in BookSmart. Yep.
Yeah, I have yet to see one that didn't have that in it. The instructors are really good about putting textbook instructions in the syllabus or near the syllabus somewhere in the course. So, all right.
Cool.
So, well, thank you so very much for sharing your time and your expertise with us.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. And students listening, if you have questions about BookSmart enrollment, you're going to contact the bookstore. They do have a physical location on campus, so they're on the far end of campus from us, but they're down by the old gym closest to the theater building. But they also have phone and they also have email, and they're pretty responsive to either of those. If you're having technical trouble accessing your materials inside Brightspace, that's when you might reach out to Online Learning, and we'll go and verify, is it working? Is it not working? Is it not working for you? Is it not working for the whole class? Those are all kinds of different questions, and they have different answers, but we'll figure it out. And remember, your materials are available during preview week. We don't edit this. We just let it roll.
We should do this earlier in the day. We are so exhausted right now. It's no wonder we might not be making sense. We believe we told you the truth.
Yes.
And we'll just Call it good.
Call it good, yes. Yes. All right. But your materials are available during preview week, so that's a few business days before classes officially start. So you can get a head start, you can go in, you can check. If something doesn't look right, you can reach out to somebody here on campus. And honestly, if you're feeling lost in unfamiliar territory, that's what we're here for. That's why GCC, not every campus has an Office of Online Learning. GCC has an Office of Online Learning. We're here as your guides to help you get through the Gobi and not annoy the herdsman on your way through. Not offend anyone on your way through.
Watch out for the spitting camels.
Yes, watch. Yeah, so you could tell we've made this trip before. We know where the spitting camels are, but we also know how to get you where you need to go. And I'll introduce you, Judy, to our mantra for our podcast. Our mantra is progress, not perfection.
Perfect.